which is the major movement of the climate, move vast amounts of the heat across the planet. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric found that ocean become less absorbed of the CO2 and ocean become less absorbed of the CO2 and so the heat increased 4.0 degrees Celsius. So the heat increased 4.0 degrees Celsius of the air and ocean temperatures worldwide and melt the snow and ice of the Antarctica and also reach the sea level. Lastly is the solar variation, which is the fundamental, because the sun is the fundamental of the source of because the sun is the fundamental source of the climate system. Moreover, increasing in solar variation can cause the climate change. According to NASA research in 2005, they found that solar variation can melt the ice of the ice mountains of in Antarctica, and the heat of the solar variation combined with the higher temperatures can melt the ice mountain and also cause the land become drier and hotter. In conclusion, I strongly disagree with the motions because human activity is not the main cause of the climate change. Natural phenomena itself that cause much more. Once again, is it logic or to force or to just to push the developed world alone, or to just to force the developed world alone to accept this big obligation while the nature is the main cause of the climate change? Your choice. Thank you.
And thank you for your remark. I now appoint the second affirmative speaker to deliver the final constructive speech in support of the resolution.
Change, and therefore they are solely responsible for taking action to address it. Before going any further, for our supporting point, we, the supporting team, will rebut all documents that the opposing team has raised. Of course, the opposing team has raised that climate change is not just about man-made activity. Let me remind that this argument is irrelevant, because according to most scientists, it would take 3,000 to 5,000 years for climate change, for the temperature to increase like this. However, since the industrial revolution for about 150 years, which the developed world pollute and emit a lot of carbon dioxide, this carbon dioxide emission has upset the ecological system, which is usually the balance of the globe. Therefore, the argument that the opposing team has raised is not relevant to the topic. And to remind that if you said this is natural, so who is responsible anyway? We would stick to our two arguments that our team has raised for two, and I will add more two important arguments, which is one, the principle of justice and practicality to Kyoto Protocol. Regarding to justice, the developed world has gained so much from the world, but yet they pollute a lot to the world. And who suffer the most from climate change? The developing countries. So it is fair for the developing country to be responsible for climate change. From a justice point of view, no. Regarding to the Kyoto Protocol, The main principle of the Kyoto Protocol is actually consistent with our argument. The main principle of Kyoto Protocol is they recognize that the developed world, the share of carbon dioxide emission of the developed world creates climate change. And they encourage the post-industrialized nations to cut down their carbon dioxide emission and to pay to the developing countries in order to have them cut down the carbon dioxide emission as well. And regarding to the newly industrialized nation, they require themselves to clean up their own mess. For the point of practicality, it is true that the developed world has more knowledge and experiences in dealing to fight climate change. Besides suffering from climate change, the developing countries have to find the ways to develop their country in order to meet their own development needs. Because the developing country need to feed their people. The developing country need to build infrastructure, school, and all of those stuff. Because if we refer to the GDP per capita, we can see that the developing country is very low compared to the developed world. Because of the full argument that the developed world has so much capability, they are high emitters of carbon dioxide, and of course, the developing countries suffer the most. And regarding to the Kyoto Protocol, which the world has already agreed that climate change is caused by man-made, and therefore we would conclude that the developed world is solely responsible for causing climate change, and of course it is therefore solely responsible for taking action in addressing it. Thank you.
Now the second negative speaker will now deliver their last speech to resolution, and it is his responsibility to complete the attacks on the affirmative case and define and summarize the negative position.
Okay, good morning, judges and friends here. My name is Dandri and I come to oppose the motion which is state that developable need to wholly responsible for climate change and responsible for taking action to address it. I want to I oppose with my opponent said. They say that right now our climate change because of developable, because of high emission greenhouse. Here we can say that about developable, about human activities, we can control it. But the most important is we cannot control natural. So the main cause of climate change not because of developable, because of natural. So the most important matters are who and what caused the climate change, and next who must deal with it, and the most importantly is how to deal with it. I believe you learn two main causes that cause climate change. First one is natural phenomena, and the second one is human activities. It is true, there is nothing for us to change nature. An example, we cannot to control the ocean current. We cannot to control solar radiation, water evaporation, or continent drift. And how it works for forest fire, we cannot control it. My opponent said, right one thing, just most developable is industrialized country, but not most of them, not all of them. Singapore is also civilization country, but it doesn't industrial one. And the other thing I learned from my world economy class is that consumers are driving to force mass product. And logical developer, they need to produce more in order to meet the needs of their users around the world. And the most important, the most interesting fact is that developing world is found that the developing world, they push themselves into the industrialization, like such as China, India, Taiwan, Thailand, Korea, Vietnam. Most of these countries industrialized country. Why you say that just only American, just only
countries that can actually afford to spend 5% of their GDP to stop this? I don't know of any. I do know that the developed nations. This one was actually stated something clearly in Copenhagen in 2009. Did put down very strict per capita. Whilst the developed nations, they should be allowed to emit almost double that, 2.67 million tons per capita. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that the developed nations use their political soft power and their already strong economy to economic advance through these summits. And I ask you to consider this. Why should there be any difference? Why shouldn't there just be one number? This is our goal. To put it a little bit more, to get up there with the rest of us. And I believe this is sort of what I would like to call a political enslavement of the underdeveloped nations, and it's something that is ethically and morally wrong. And
in fact, like in November 2009, China also promised to reduce the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by 40 to 45% by the year 2020 from the 2005 levels. Moreover, China said that the great effort have been made by China to emission reduction and energy saving. Exactly, China has cut the emission of the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by about 1.5 billion tons from the atmosphere by 2010. It is the 5-year plan of China. Anyway, the 5-year plan for rich countries like the US and Britain was reduced by 40%. The emission by cut over 20%. So it's
responsible for it and taking and find solutions to address and to understand about the environment and climate. But the other side, like developing country and underdeveloped country, trying to pollute about the environment and the climate without taking no care about this and stop doing action that to cause climate change. So it is useless from developed country alone to try to taking action to against the climate change. So and finding the address the climate change.
This opportunity to rebut the arguments of the opposing side. But first of all, let me clear this up. Climate change does affect everyone, and climate change is caused by natural events. However, it is the unnatural acceleration of climate change which is caused by developed countries can control nature. Nature cannot be tamed. However, man's industrial progress, commercial greed, things like deforestation, which are natural things which should be helping reduce climate change, are indeed causing climate change through man's greed to rid the forests to gain more money. If the forests remained, natural things like that, climate change would be brought into balance. However, they are not. Furthermore, the argument that countries should cooperate together would be valid in a perfect world. However, every time we listen to, it does not happen. We can see that if countries try to pass blame on each other, this will be passed around in a circle. A affirmative action requires leadership, and that leadership, when they happen, we can be as prepared as possible. But natural events cannot be tamed. Our natural acceleration.
Position and belief. In here you have 5 minutes only to wrap up the point. Please welcome.
Now I would like to make a summary, a final summary about our group debate. There were no scientists know that in the maybe at the start of the industrialization and the overpopulation, developed country, and yes, and secondly, for example, China and India are not recognized as belonging to the developing country from the issue. And third, in 2006, China's CO2 emissions surpassed those of the US by 8%. According to the Netherlands Environmental Assessment Agency.
We are accept that the developing try to deforestation, but the developed countries are also do the activities like this. And before the developing countries deforestation, the developed and all this have mentioned from the debate here have mentioned already. They did for the great well to be a developed world. So the developing country just try a little bit for deforestation to be a developed country as well. And according from this website again, they agree that the developing countries should try to deforestation or add a little bit emission. It's never going to be a developed their own country to be a developed country also. Try to combat climate change when they be a developed nation like other countries. So the third question is if the always